So I'm trying something a little different, and at the same time, I'm trying something that I've done before. But the last time we did this, it was 1997, and within the ranks of WCW, as opposed to WWE. I know I could pop back and try and put together the Royal Rumble. I could redo the Royal Rumble. I could redo Elimination Chamber. I could redo WrestleMania. You know, I could go back and redo a lot of these pay per views, but the fact of the matter is, the fact of the matter is, I really don't see the reason why. Because from the looks of it, Elimination Chamber was not really that bad of a pay per view. It wasn't that good, but it wasn't that good, but honestly, Elimination Chamber is just supposed to be a bridge pay per view before WrestleMania. It's not supposed to be anything special. What I would say is this show, on the other hand, is one that honestly, if I wanted to go back and redo, I would feel like if there was any show to go back and redo, it would be this one. But instead of doing that, we're jumping ahead to, in my opinion, it is not the worst WrestleMania. It is one of the worst WrestleManias in in the modern era, in my opinion, right up there with WrestleMania 32, right up there with, honestly, right up there with WrestleMania 31. But also very similar to WrestleMania 31. It is a one match show. And the one match show is Triple H versus The Undertaker. I understand that Punk versus Randy Orton is, not a bad match, but it's also, and I'm sure Cody versus Rey Mysterio was not a bad match, but as far as the top of the marquee, let's go back up here and look. Punk and Orton are not on the poster. Or Orton is, but Punk isn't. You know, I mean, but Triple H, John Cena, The Miz, and The Undertaker are on the poster with Rey Mysterio. Um, as far as this show is concerned, let's go through the card. Two dark matches. One is one of the most consistent early, you know, staples. That's the word. One of the more consistent staples of the time, the Battle Royal, the dark match Battle Royal for WrestleMania. It goes back to WrestleMania in 2006. It goes back 2007, 2008, yada 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 yada. Every year there was a WrestleMania Battle Royal. Um, Edge and Alberto Del Rio for the World Heavyweight Championship. Cody and Ray, the 8-man tag. Kofi, Kane, Big Show, and Santino versus the Core. Randy versus Punk. Michael Cole versus Jerry Lawler, with Steve Austin as a special referee. No holds barred match. The Undertaker versus Triple H. 6-man tag. Intergender 6-man tag match. Snooki, Trish, Morrison against Dolph Ziggler and Lay Cool, and then The Miz versus John Cena. So there is one match that I am going to go off on right now, and that is Michael Cole versus Jerry Lawler. I understand why they did it. I understand that Lawler was still in shape to get in the ring. I understand that it was more for Jerry Lawler to have his WrestleMania moment, but you ended up taking it away when Michael Cole won the match via disqualification. And in all honesty, you would have gained more putting him in the ring with Jack Swagger than you would have putting him in the ring against Michael Cole. So that's one thing. Thing number two is you should be ashamed of yourself that you gave a match like that long, because there's no reason why Michael Cole and Jerry Lawler should have gone for 13 minutes. When the 8-man tag and the 6-man tag went for a collective about 5 minutes tops, like, I don't agree with it. I don't like it, and we're gonna change it. Uh, um, Honestly, I wouldn't change anything with Edge and Alberto Del Rio in the opener. I wouldn't change Rey Mysterio and Cody, other than the fact that you say the Royal Rumble winner gets the main event of WrestleMania, not the winner of the Elimination Chamber. So we're gonna switch up where the world title matches are, because Cody and Rey, I would say either Cody and Rey or Punk and Randy main event. I mean, open the card, and I'd put the world title match second. And then we put the 8-man tag. We keep the 8-man tag where it's at, but we give it a lot more time. We take probably, I think justifiably 8-9 minutes would be justified for Jerry Lawler's match. Um, yeah, I think about 8-9 minutes would be justified for Lawler's match. So you can give a handful of time to that match. Mm, hmm. You know what? I'm gonna pull the 6-man tag team match to the number 5 spot, because I'm still debating what I want to do with the 8-man tag match. So we're gonna pull the 6-man tag match up, give it 6 minutes instead of 3 minutes. So we'll give it 3 more minutes. Um, Cody and Rey, I would probably put Cody and Rey in the 6th spot with Randy and Punk opening the show. Lawler versus Jack Swagger would be number 7, and I'd probably put it at 13. I'd probably leave it at 8 minutes, give or take. No, I'd probably put it at 7 minutes, because it doesn't need a more pressing amount of time. It doesn't need a more pressing amount of time. And honestly, if you're gonna have it happen, you gotta have Michael Cole get some sort of comeuppance. You can't keep pushing the heel that nobody likes, because nobody liked him as a heel. Nobody liked him during this window of time because he was the main announcer still. You want him to be one of your top heels. You want him to be a heel. Don't have him be an announcer. Have him be a manager and use the heel heat that he's trying to get over Jack Swagger. But still, Swagger and Michael Cole need to get some sort of comeuppance, because nobody wants to see them walk away without it. And that's why not only does Jack Swagger deserve to lose via disqualification, then Michael Cole takes a Stone Cold Stunner. I am actually going to pull. See, I want to pull Miz versus John Cena from the main event. I want to pull Miz versus John Cena from the main event because I don't know if the chemistry just wasn't there or the feel, the spectacle feel of a WrestleMania main event. I don't necessarily know what it was, but I will say that the year before, WrestleMania was a one match show, 100%, because there was a lot more guilt in WrestleMania in 2010. There was a lot more issues for WrestleMania in 2010 to point out. Oh, maybe not a one match show, but it was up there. Edge and Jericho was all right. Cena and Batista was but everybody was talking about Taker versus Shawn Michaels. Nobody else was focused on anything else but Taker and Shawn Michaels. The following year, I understand that if you fast forward to 10 years down the road, The Miz was preaching the fact that he main evented a WrestleMania. I understand that The Rock would still be guest host, and I would still have The Rock be guest host because of the fact that The Rock does have mainstream appeal, but I would have him be the guest host more closely to how The New Day were the guest host at the WrestleMania when the Hardys they returned to WWE. Come out and announce the attendance, be the guest host, maybe do a segment with, some talkative heel or whatever the case is, and let that be the end of it because you don't need the spotlight. You are not an active wrestler. I don't care. Oh, you're promoting next year's WrestleMania. You don't need main event. You don't need the main event of WrestleMania to promote that. If you want and you insist that the match ends with that situation, then the fact of the matter is, don't let it main event. Because the amount of times I've heard people say that there were people that don't normally watch that questioned who won the main event of WrestleMania because The Rock was the one standing. He was the one walking out standing up at the end of the match. So it made people confused as to think that The Rock was the one who won the main event. Now, in my opinion, the Miz main eventing only makes sense if you booked him in a way where people want to see him get his ass kicked. From what I remember, at this point, Miz was booked as an afterthought, with the focus being presented on John Cena and The Rock. Not The Miz, even though The Miz was WWE Champion. I actually have an idea. And here's the idea. We're going to have the WWE Championship match and in the 8th spot with The Miz and John Cena. Then the 8-man tag will be still in the 9th spot. And because I took 6 minutes from Jerry Lawler's match and scaled that down to 7 minutes, 8 minutes, give or take, we can add another 4 minutes to the 8-man tag, which only brings it up to 5 minutes, which is still a freaking joke in my opinion. But here's the thing, the core wins. Because the fact of the matter is, the core had been together, number one. Gabriel and Slater were the tag team champions. If you guys didn't see, when we looked at Elimination Chamber, they won the titles from Santino and Vladimir Kozlov. So you have your tag team champions do a job at WrestleMania in 1 minute and 32 seconds in front of 70,000 people, that's a joke. You know, why even have tag team titles then if you're going to have your champions do a job like that in front of your largest audience of the year? It's like, it doesn't make sense to me. So the tag team champions have to win, and Barrett has to win if you want to regain any sort of momentum that he had when he was the leader of the Shield. And, you know, I understand, oh, well, heel, blah, 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 blah. But that's why Taker and Triple H are main eventing, and they can have the same amount of time that they had, even if you want to scale down. You know, I think you could even take 2 minutes away from Triple H and the Undertaker, let him have 27 minutes instead of 29, and boost up the 8-man tag team match from 5 minutes to 7 minutes, because it is a freaking 8-man tag match where you have a lot of people and they shouldn't need to rush, just like the 6-man match. You have a lot of people and you didn't need to rush. Otherwise, I don't know, don't have an 8-man tag match. But Taker obviously would still win, and here's my idea. My idea is Miz wins wins and retains his world championship, and then moves into a feud with Triple H after WrestleMania, because Triple H had the main event at WrestleMania, and the Miz feels like, as the champion, he should have been given the main event. And Triple H took the main event so he could lose to The Undertaker instead of The Miz, who beat John Cena. You know, and I wouldn't do the sloppy finish. I wouldn't do the spot where The Miz was sitting on the guardrail and gets speared into the fans, or into the crowd, and hits his head on the concrete, knocks himself loopy, and gets a concussion, because that spot didn't help nobody. What it helped was it allowed The Rock to come out, play the hero, and then turn on Cena, which you could still run the segment the next day where you officially announced Cena versus The Rock at WrestleMania the following year. You know, there's no reason, or even, I don't know, announce it now. Announce it tonight. Have The Rock and Cena do the match. I mean, do a segment where Cena announces. Even you could even do it at the opening of the show. You know, you could do it at first segment, have The Rock come out. But I know they don't like doing the attendance, so I would say maybe between Rey Mysterio and Cody and Jerry Lawler and Jack Swagger, have, The Rock come out and have Cena basically make it clear that he wants The Rock next year at WrestleMania. You know, I understand, but the fact of the matter is, The Rock gets involved, screws The Miz out of his moment at WrestleMania, screws John Cena, and The Rock is still a good guy. But at least now, with Miz winning clean, getting a credible win over Cena, he can move into a feud with Triple H for the WWE Championship to even get himself more credible by beating Triple H and getting more credibility, because there's no reason why Miz needs to move into a feud and stick around with John Cena, because Cena would end up winning the title back in May inside a triple threat steel cage match. Actually, was it May, or is it? Yeah, no, it was May, because this is May 1st. This is the pay-per-view that Cena wins the title at. Extreme Rules, 2011. There's no reason why Cena needs a rematch. You know, I feel like you could either run the segment with The Rock where they challenge each other for WrestleMania next year, either at WrestleMania or the next night, with a win or a loss for Cena. The Rock doesn't need to get involved. The Undertaker and Triple H can main event, which allows then Miz to have a match against Triple H at Extreme Rules. And Triple H then puts over The Miz at Extreme Rules. Before we wrap things up, let's jump over to Extreme Rules and see how this show looks, and maybe rebook a little bit of Extreme Rules too. Randy beats Punk again. Kofi wins the United States Championship. Michael Cole and Swagger beat Jim Ross and Jerry Lawler. I don't know why they thought was that. I don't know how they thought that that was a good idea. Ray beats Cody. Layla beats Michelle, and Michelle leaves. Christian beats Alberto for the vacated world title. Kane and the Big Show retain the tag team titles, and The Miz loses a triple threat steel cage with Cena. Again, I would point out momentum. Momentum. You know, I get what they were trying to do. People don't like Michael Cole at this time because Michael Cole has been an asshole siding with The Miz for the last, ever since Miz won the title. Even before that, he was an advocate for The Miz. But keeping it, I said this at the time because I was writing that Michael Cole should not have been in the booth then. Give Josh Matthews the opportunity to be the lead announcer. You would have seen he didn't have it to be the lead announcer. And then you could have brought Michael Cole back to being the lead announcer after taking a break from Michael Cole at the announce booth. But there is absolutely no reason why Jim Ross should have been in the ring. There's absolutely no reason why this feud should have continued at this particular moment in time. And you could have cut down a match, given more time to Lay Cool and the retirement match for Michelle McCool. You also could have given more time to Kofi and Sheamus. You could have given more time to the tag team title match. Because you're clearing out 7 minutes. Also, with the fact that Randy and Punk fight again, and Punk loses again, you're killing the new Nexus again by not having the leader of the faction win ever. I know if you float back to WrestleMania where I had Edge defeat Del Rio, honestly, I was never the biggest fan of Alberto Del Rio, and even if we knew that Edge, even with hindsight and knowing now what we know with Edge having to retire, we didn't know at the time that Edge had to retire. So there's absolutely no reason why I would have had Del Rio beat Edge. Again, if anything, I would have went back and redid the Royal Rumble and not had Del Rio win the Royal Rumble. In all honesty, I probably would have had Punk win the Royal Rumble, move over to SmackDown with the new Nexus, challenge Edge for the world title of WrestleMania, and win the world title of WrestleMania, knocking Edge down, and then having Christian to feud with after Edge retired. Because you can't have Punk win the Rumble and challenge The Miz because they're both heels. But, honestly, WrestleMania 27 was bad. Extreme Rules was worse. Extreme Rules was worse. Because it's not that there's anything wrong with John Cena winning and becoming world champion again. It's the fact that people were tired of seeing Cena on the top and nobody else near him. That's why, in my opinion, Triple H versus The Miz in the main event of Extreme Rules and having The Miz win again and retain against Triple H would have given The Miz more credibility. It would have given The Miz more credibility and would have given people a break from John Cena as world champion. And you could have been building up a babyface. Daniel Bryan. The person who was with a pre-existing feud with The Miz, or had a pre-existing feud with The Miz, and I don't understand their fascination with having people in factions lose to the Big Show and Kane, and the Big Show and Kane being tag team champions and not doing anything with the titles, or having unremarkable reigns, but also you point out Ezekiel Jackson and Wade Barrett only going 7 minutes. It's just the booking in the 2010s, in the early 2010s, was not very good. And these 3 pay-per-views it got better at Capital Punishment because we got the introduction to Little Jimmy and R-Truth. So in that situation, Cena being champion, number one, he didn't need to be the champion to feud with R-Truth, and number two, that is the one perk from that moment in time because R-Truth showed just how entertaining he can be. But the fact of the matter is, these three pay-per-views, WrestleMania, Extreme Rules, and Over the Limit, was a highlight of piss-poor booking during this window of time, and it all started, or it was on full display, I should say, at WrestleMania. With that being said, I would keep most of the matches, except Michael Cole and Jerry Lawler, because Michael Cole doesn't need to be in the ring. I would just reorganize the format, and I would have The Miz not main event. This way it could play into a feud after WrestleMania where he has a gripe with Triple H to feud with him following WrestleMania for taking the WrestleMania main event away from him. But with that being said, if you want to see more like this or more videos like this, let me know down in the comment section below or show it in the views. If you get this video above 20 views, I will do another one of these for a different wrestling pay-per-view throughout the years because there's a whole mess of this stuff to choose from TNA to WWE to AEW to WCW, ECW, yada, 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 yada. There's a whole mess of companies to choose from where the show could have been done better. With that being said, I will see you in the next one.